بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. We greet you on this, the 18th day of the blessed month of Ramadan with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh and Ramadan Kareem. The Jews for today, my book, The Quran and the Moon, do please write it, read it. The Jews for today, Jews means the portion of the Quran to be recited. If we are to complete the Quran, the recitation of the Quran, the whole Quran, in the month of Ramadan, the Jews for today, the 18th day, is Surah Rum, and Surah Luqman, and Surah Sajda, and Surah Al-Ahzab. Now then, today we want to introduce you to the antichrist, to Dajjal, the false Messiah. Do remember, I have been teaching this subject for many years now, but every few years I have to welcome a new generation of babies growing up, and I have to introduce them to knowledge, and I have to teach them a new generation. So for many of you, this is already known, this is revision. But for others, we are teaching you for the first time. So bear with me if you know the subject already. We have said to you that our, our Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, described him or named him as al-Masih al-Dajjal. And that is Dajjal, who will claim to be the Messiah. The Quran declares that the Messiah is Jesus, the son of Mary. Allah's blessings be upon them both, the Virgin Mary. So this one, Dajjal, is a false Messiah who claims to be the true Messiah. And, the reason why there is a Dajjal, of course, it's Allah who created him. It's because when Allah sent the true Messiah, He sent him in a way which tested the Israelite people. And because they lacked the capacity to penetrate reality, they made their judgment based only on appearance. But reality was different. They rejected him. They said, وَنَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنْهَا. They said he is a bastard and his mother committed sin. On Judgment Day, they will realize what a horrendous mistake they made, because they had eyes and they could not see. Allah tested them and they failed the test. And they have persisted in that rejection of the Messiah to this day. Deaf, dumb, and blind, with an intellectual arrogance which is unsurpassed in history. They've rejected him to this day. But because they rejected him, and then they celebrated when they saw him die before their very eyes on the cross. They saw him die because Allah made it appear to them like that. No, he did not die. Rather, Allah made it appear to them like that. And so they said he could not have been the Messiah. He is dead. He never ruled the world from Jerusalem. The golden age never came back. He could not have been the Messiah. And so they're still waiting for the Messiah to come. They're still waiting. And so Allah created someone to impersonate the Messiah and take them for a ride. And because he has to impersonate the Messiah, he is endowed with the powers of deception. Everything connected with the Antichrist is deception. And therefore you have to have Noor. Noor is light. Light is not sold in the supermarket or even in the free market. Allah gives light to whomsoever He chooses. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يهدي الله لنوره من يشاء. And whosoever is given nur in the heart can see what otherwise cannot be seen. And therefore this is the other epistemology, the one from the Quran, not Dajjal's epistemology. This is what you need to be able to read and understand the footprints of the Antichrist. We have introduced the subject from the Quran, but with an ayah mutashabiha. We have used the verse of the Quran, in taliku ila zillin zi salasi shurab. If you have another interpretation, not explanation, interpretation of the verse, well, fine. No need for any boxing match, really. We have interpreted it that the shadow, which now will come with 3 parts, is Dajjal. This is our interpretation. But only Allah can confirm that it is correct. If we are wrong, if I am wrong, I still will get blessings for making the effort to interpret the Quran. But if I interpret the Quran, I must say Allah knows best. Only Allah can confirm whether I am right or whether I am wrong. But if I have interpreted the Quran correctly, then this is truth. And no amount of critics in the world can refute the truth. The truth will survive. And so now, since we have this foundation, that the footprints of Dajjal, while he is a shadow in the world, he has not as yet appeared in concrete human form. He is still a shadow in the world. His footprints is three parts. Everything connected him with it is 3 parts. And the Christians already have those 3 parts. We now turn to a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which supports the Quran, is in harmony with the Quran. And that we have important information here confirming what is in the Quran. What is his name now? Tamim al-Dari was a companion of the Prophet ﷺ. And he came one day and said, "O Messenger of Allah, I had this vision." No, he didn't use the word vision. He said, he reported something about Dajjal. I have understood it to be a vision. And then the Prophet ﷺ said to the believers, Tamim al-Dari has come to me to tell me something about Dajjal, the Antichrist, which confirms what I have been saying to you. This is known as the Hadith of Tamim al-Dari in the Sahih of Imam Muslim. What Tamim al-Dari said was that he and some 40 of his companions went on board a ship. And so this will have to be the Mediterranean Sea, close to the Arab world. And it could be on the other side as well. But the other side will be the Red Sea. And he said that a storm came and blew the ship for a whole month, tossing it in the sea. So we eliminate the Red Sea, because in the Red Sea, within half an hour, you reach land. And after a whole month in the Red Sea, they came to an island. Sorry, not the Red Sea. A whole month in the Mediterranean Sea, they came to an island. But those who insist it's the Red Sea, leave them. That's their view. No need for fighting. We say it's the Mediterranean Sea. And after 1 month, they came to an island. I don't know how they knew it was an island. And when they got on shore, they were confronted by a very hairy creature, so much hair that you could not tell which side was the head and which side was the tail. A creature, meaning an island, which conceals its true identity. See my interpretation of the text? The name of that creature was Jassasa. And since the Quran uses the word wala tajassasu, I have come to the conclusion, you may differ with me, that Jassasa is someone who spies, a spy. And this is an island, therefore, a James Bond island, with a PhD in spying and espionage. This island, with this creature, and the creature now speaks and says to Tamim al-Dari and his companions that there is someone waiting to see you there in the ruins of a church or a monastery, indicating that this is an island which eventually will witness the collapse of the religious way of life. The overwhelming majority of the people will eventually become people with no religion. And then they will start selling their churches to McDonald's and burgers and to Kentucky Fry and to Pizza Hut. And there'll be Muslims who will be rushing to buy the masjid, buy the church and make it a masjid and so on. And when they sell their churches, they'll also sell the cemeteries around the church. People who have totally lost contact with the world of the sick. They don't care anymore for the graveyard of their grandfather and so on. The church can even become a pub. They don't care. So they hurried to this monastery which was lying in ruins, and there they came upon a man who was powerfully built and who had chains. His hands were chained to his neck and his feet were chained. And this man started to question them. And eventually he said to them that I am the Messiah. Ana al-Masih, I am the Messiah. And when I am released from these chains, I will enter every town and every city. Among the questions he asked, is there any water left in Buhayrat al-Tabariya? That's the Arab name, the Arabic name. The English name is the Sea of Galilee, and the Jewish name is Lake Kinneret, I believe. So they said, yes, there's a lot of water. He says, soon it'll dry up. And so we know from this hadith that when Dajjal is released from his chains, he will be released on this island, even though he is still a shadow. And it is from this island that he will commence his effort to eventually, number one, liberate the Holy Land for the Jews, because the Holy Land is under Muslim rule. Number two, bring the Jews back to Jerusalem to reclaim it as their own. Number three, facilitate the creation of a holy state of Israel in Jerusalem. And number four, cause that state of Israel to eventually become the ruling state in the world, so that he can then declare from Jerusalem, I am the Messiah. Perhaps now you can understand why it was the British government which declared the Balfour Declaration. that it is the intention of the British government, which is a secular government, to work for the establishment of a Jewish home in Jerusalem, in the Holy Land. This was 1917. Perhaps now you can understand why. It was a British army which was led by General Allenby, which eventually conquered Jerusalem. And then the general declared, today the Crusades have ended. Perhaps now you will understand why. The League of Nations gave to Britain the mandate power over the Holy Land. Perhaps now you'll understand why. It was Britain who presided over the birth of Israel. Every British colony became an independent state through a legal process. This is British law. A legal process, complete with the flag and the anthem and everything. And there is a transfer of power that is legally established. But not Israel. No, there was no legal transfer of power from Britain to Israel when Britain withdrew as the mandate power. No, no, no. Israel came into being by itself without any British transfer of power. Perhaps now you'll understand. Why is it that Britain has this obsession with the Holy Land? This is Dajjal in his first stage. And there's a second and a third, as I mentioned before. This is my analysis, remember. I gave this analysis more than 20 years ago because I am a student of international relations, in addition to my scholarship in philosophy at Karachi University and in Islamic studies at the Alimia Institute of Islamic Studies in Pakistan. I surprised the world of scholarship when I made this declaration. How can you explain the emergence of an island off the coast of Europe in such a short space of time as the ruling state in the world? How can you explain that on the verge of the First World War, when there were no aircrafts, Britain controlled every single strategically important port, naval port on the whole earth? How can you explain? This is Pax Britannica. And then we said a day like a year will be replaced by a day like a month. So now let's explain this day like a year and a day like a month. The Prophet, Allah's blessing be upon him, this is going to be new for our Christian viewers. And we thank Allah that the number of Christians who are now listening is constantly increasing. We thank Allah for that. And I am learning from them, and they are learning from me. Our Prophet said, Allah's blessing be upon him, that when Dajjal is released from his chain, that is, he will live on earth for 40 days. Yawmun kasana, one day which will be like a year. Not one day which is a year, one day which is like a year. Yawmun kad shahr, one day which will be like a month. Yawmun kad jum'ah, one day which will be like a week. And so 3 periods of time. I have never attempted any mathematical calculation of these 3 periods of time, and I will not do that. So the first stage is a long period of time. The second stage is a shorter period of time. And the third stage, Yawmun ka-Jum'ah, would be a very short period of time. And then after these 3 stages, the shadow disappears. The hadith continues to say, وَالسَّائِرُ أَيَّامِهِ كَأَيَّامِكُمْ. that after the third stage, the day like a week is completed, then all his days, meaning all the rest of his days, would be like your days, meaning Dajjal, the antichrist, will now be in our world of space and time. We will then see him as a human being. That's right. The Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, described him to be a young man, to be a Jew, a young man, powerfully built, and with the curls at the side of his head, which is there in the Torah, that you have to keep these, I think they call sideburns. And if you look at American history, you see how the Americans used to have the sideburns. The Orthodox Jews still have them, the sideburns, but they have them as curls. And so here is the Hadith of Tamim al-Dari, which confirms, because of its three parts, a day like a year, a day like a month, and a day like a week, confirms what is in the Quran, harmonious with what is in the Quran. Intaliku ila zillin zi salasi shu'ab. Proceed now to a shadow which will appear in three parts. This is enough for today, our introduction to the Antichrist. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.